I want to explain today why for 75 million children and young people trapped in conflict zones, education cannot wait. I speak of millions of children forcibly removed from Syria, exiled from Sudan and now in Uganda, denied the chance to go home to Myanmar, trapped on the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan, children for whom exodus is not a scene from the past, but a never-present reality, and who are becoming a lost generation. The majority tragically out of school, more likely to be victims of child marriage or child labor and child trafficking than able to enjoy an education beyond school. These boys and girls are far more talented than the underfunded, pre-digital, wholly inadequate education service to which they are currently condemned. And among the young people stuck in camps, there is a future Tim Berners-Lee, a Jesse Norman, a Picasso, an Einstein, whose potential will never be realized because they have no access to the education that would allow them to bridge the gap between what they are and what they have it in themselves to become. A lost generation is not only identified by empty classrooms, silent playgrounds, and small unmarked graves. A lost generation is one where hope dies in those who live. A few weeks ago, as if the spread of COVID-19 was not itself a dangerous enough killer, the Moria refugee camp on the Greek islands burnt down. And the pictures I saw of thousands of refugees on the move will haunt me for years. Refugees walking in line who did not know where their march would end up, and whether the next home would be a hut, a hovel, a tent, or that they would simply have to sleep by the roadside. But such were the conditions for young refugees in Moria before it burnt down, that 2 years ago, 3 teenage refugees, aged 11, 12, and 13, unable to get an education, became so desolate, felt so isolated, so devoid of hope, that they attempted suicide. At an age when a young person should be full of optimism about the possibilities and the opportunities that lie ahead of them, they concluded their only way forward was to take their own lives. Yes, hope dies when a refugee boat capsizes at sea. Hope dies when a life-saving food convoy doesn't get through to a besieged town. But hope also dies when young people cannot look forward, cannot begin to plan or prepare for the future, cannot dream of times ahead, and where their nightmares happen during the day. It is our responsibility to rekindle hope. And it is only by solving one of the great injustices of our time, the poverty of millions of refugees and the lack of education, that we can make possible one of the great advances of our time, the attainment of the internationally agreed Sustainable Development Goals. Because we cannot be the first generation to get every child to school unless we make sure every refugee and displaced child is at school. We cannot abolish extreme poverty by 2030 unless we provide food, shelter, healthcare, and schooling for those displaced millions. We cannot end avoidable infant mortality and avoidable maternal mortality unless we bring education and healthcare to refugee mothers and their children. And we cannot, unlock every other sustainable development goal without investing in education. For education is the key to achieving our goals for gender equality, for health, and for employment too. Education Cannot Wait exists as an organization to provide education for the most disenfranchised and isolated children of the world, as a necessary road to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals to benefit everyone. Until 2016, only 1% of what was already far too little humanitarian aid went to pay for the education of the displaced. But since 2016, Education Cannot Wait, under the leadership of Yasmin Sharif and her team, has coordinated the provision of education in emergencies, helping millions of children by bringing humanitarian aid and development aid budgets together. But Education Cannot Wait needs more champions like you, more business champions, more foundations as champions, as well as more national governments as champions. For this, and this is where I conclude, does not every single religion, every faith, every ethical philosophy tell us not only that we should treat others in the way we would have them treat us, but also that it is the hallmark of a civilized society that we do most to help those who have the least? Please help Education Cannot Wait. Help those children who today wait in vain for an education. Let us be the first generation where every child, including every refugee child, goes to school. And instead of developing only some of the talents of some of our children in some of our world's countries, let us commit to developing all of the talents of all children, no matter their country. Thank you.